When we went out the other night, Katie had said some things about you that were a little concerning. She says that you call the paparazzi and you tell them where you're at all the time.
And she has proof of it.
Good. Bring the proof.
I asked her for the proof. She did not show me the proof.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 18, Episode 4. And before we get into it, let me just let you know, Miss Emily, the way I'm about to whack you several times because you tried it. I don't understand what your issue with Jenn is. The way you're acting, you would think that Jenn owed you the rent. Because I'm confused as to why you hate her so much. Now, I think that you and Gina are jealous of Jenn for different reasons. I think that Gina's jealous that she can't call a man up and ask for some money or ask for some help because she is over there taking care of men. She has to be the breadwinner. I think with Emily, I wouldn't be surprised if she feels threatened by Jenn's looks. Something about Jenn makes her feel insecure, very intimidated, very threatened. Emily acts like a straight up weirdo when it comes to Jenn. Now, Miss Katie, I gave you a fair chance. I was liking you in the beginning. I said, okay, she seems cool. She's pretty, a very touching personal story. She has a nice husband, nice house. They have some money. The fashions are cute. But girl, I let you know in last week's recap that Miss Heather Dubrow is my girl. So you coming at her unprovoked like this, I said, oh no ma'am. And what's really troubling is the fact that you are grasping at straws. And not only that, you're bringing up an old storyline when you weren't even on the show. But y'all, let me not jump ahead. Let's just get right on into it because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. So we open up this episode with a short scene with Heather and Terry in their penthouse. And it was funny because while they were pouring some champagne, Heather's like, oh babe, look, is that our house right there or is that Drake's house? So now we see production point out where Heather and Terry's Beverly Hills house is and where Drake's house is. And it looks like they're neighbors. So now we see Heather and Terry go out on their patio. And when I tell you their view is stunning, I said, chef's kiss. So anyhow, Heather brings up that I think their realtor called her earlier and said that there's somebody who's interested in renting out their penthouse. And Heather has quite the dilemma because while she loves the penthouse, she says that she showers in the penthouse, she gets dressed in the penthouse. She's not trying to rent it out to anybody, but on the other hand, the penthouse, while it is 5,000 square feet, it is a bit small because it's only 2 bedrooms and they still have 2 teenagers in the house who need their own space. I'm just surprised that when you and Terry bought the penthouse, you guys didn't think to get a penthouse with 3 or 4 bedrooms for your children. It's a lot of unnecessary moves all the time. And yes, I know that you guys have money. You want to have a vast real estate portfolio. That's great. But at the same time, I feel like that's a lot of stress that doesn't need to be there because you're constantly moving. And I say this with no shade, but Miss Mamas, I'm getting a bit tired of the constant we're moving storylines. So now they change topics and Heather brings up Emily's flag football event the other day. And now Heather gives him the rundown of how Shannon is avoiding Alexis and Tamara. So there's tension there. And now Heather goes on to say that she's in a great spot with everybody in this group. And I said, Heather, don't speak too soon because it seems like yet again, the girls are trying to take you down. So now Heather brings up how she has a whole new perspective because after Terry's stroke last year, she has no time for the nonsense or the drama. And Heather, while I'm happy to hear that, unfortunately, your cast members don't care. Emily, Tamara, Gina, and Katie have a different agenda. So now we find out from Heather that the app that saved Terry's life, Life 360, they ended up reaching out to collaborate with Heather because she was talking about it all last year. And she says that if she can help other people by telling them about Life 360, then she's more than happy to do so. And we also find out that when the stroke happened, Heather was just so messed up about it that she scheduled her breakdown for when she went on vacation. So she says that when she was on the beach by herself, she just started crying, let all her emotions out, and she feels a whole lot better. And I know a lot of people were laughing at that, like, who schedules a breakdown or a time to cry? And I think that's smart. I also schedule times to cry and weep and get all my emotions out, because sometimes you're so busy and it's like, okay, I need to schedule a good cry. There is nothing wrong with that. And one thing about me, when I'm upset, I'm going to cry. So I am here for all of it. But now we jump over to the next scene and we see that the ladies are having a girls' night out, orchestrated by Tamara. So we see a party bus pull up to pick Tamara up, and we see Tamara in her confessional say that everybody loves a good girls' night out at a dive bar. And obviously, she wants to have a fun night, so that's why Shannon wasn't invited. And I said, girl, it's any reason to just be nasty, because why was that needed? It's like Shannon lives rent-free in her head. Every chance she gets, she's always shading her, and I don't understand it. You don't like Shannon, okay, but to always be talking about her, purposely going out of your way not to invite her to stuff, is giving press. So now we see the party bus pull up to Katie's house, and Emily and Gina both have to use the bathroom. So we see Gina ring the doorbell to use Katie's bathroom. She says hello to Katie's husband. And now we see Emily talking about, oh, I don't want to go into the bathroom. I don't feel like saying hi to anybody's husband. I'm going to pee in the bushes. So we actually see Emily pee in Katie's bushes, and we have Tamara covering her to make sure that nobody sees her. And I said again, Emily can't help herself. Emily, I don't understand why you insist on being a loser every chance you get. Who does that? If I were Katie, I would have cursed you out and told you, don't you ever come back to my home again. Because how dare you? Don't you ever disrespect me in my home like that. I was livid watching that. I don't know if Emily wants to feel like she's some rebel or she's this cool girl. I don't know what it is with her, but it's giving Arrested Development. It's just weirdo behavior, because what was the issue? It's not going to kill you to go inside and ask Katie, can I use your bathroom? And say hi to her husband. Like, what's wrong with you? I don't understand her logic. Emily does stuff like this, but then she's the first one crying and complaining about how somebody's judging her. And it's like, well, girl, if you stop doing stupid stuff like this, then maybe folks wouldn't have so much to say about you and your behavior. So they're at the dive bar, and now we see them at the bar ordering drinks. Emily orders an espresso martini, and of course, her and Tamara have to throw shade at Heather. So they both tell the bartender to make the espresso martini mucus-free, and of course, production plays the flashback of when Emily spit out her espresso martini at Heather's luncheon. So that's why her and Tamara are making jokes about, oh, make the espresso martini mucus-free. I said, y'all just have so much hate in your hearts. So now we see Jenn turn to Emily and she's like, tonight's gonna be fun. I really want to have a Coyote Ugly moment. And Emily's like, oh my gosh, that would be everything. I love Coyote Ugly. And now she goes on to ask the bartender if they can get up and dance on the bar later on. So now they sit down and toast to a fun girls' night out. And without them even taking a sip of their drink, Emily is already on her BS. So she's like, wait, guys, did I tell you the other day I had lunch with Katie and she was telling me more tea about last year with Heather and the whole paparazzi stunt? And I said, Emily, that's the only thing that you can think to talk about? You guys are out on a girls' night and your objective is to try to catch Heather in a lie? And let's also talk about the fact that you're bringing up stale tea and a storyline that was already put to rest last season. Why are we bringing this back up again? And does anybody else notice how Emily's face lights up anytime it's some bad news pertaining to Heather? It's really a sickness. It's like, girl, you're this jealous of Heather? Because I don't understand why you're always trying to find something to get Heather with. Give it up. So now you have Emily putting Katie on the spot to tell the actual story. And Katie says that she texted her friend who's in charge of all the paparazzi, and she asked, is it true about Heather calling paparazzi to take pictures of them, and he said yes. So now you have Tamara jumping in because, of course, it's Tamara. She loves mess. She loves stirring the pot and lying on somebody and also throwing somebody under the bus. So she's loving all of this. So she's like, oh, are you talking about the whole Disneyland stunt? Because she was dead set that it was a lie. So one thing about Tamara, when Tamara feels like she has a newcomer to the group who's going to do her dirty work, all of a sudden she loves them, they're her new favorite person, only for her to discard them later on when she has no more use for them. Because you have her saying, oh my gosh, Katie is like a gift from God, and now she feels vindicated about this whole entire thing. And Katie, I'm sorry, but the desperation for Tamara's approval was really jumping out. Because when you started saying that you have receipts and you have the screenshots to prove that Heather is lying, I said, oh, really? Because those screenshots that we saw later on in this episode, those receipts were a flop, in my opinion, didn't prove anything. So Katie goes on to say how her friend, who's the head guy of all the paparazzi, he's on speed dial for Kim Kardashian. And now Tamara interrupts and she says, Heather too? And Katie's like, well, apparently she has his number. So now you have Emily jumping back in and she's like, well, that means that she lied to all of us. And again, we know that Emily has a hard-on for giving Heather a hard time. So I was not surprised to hear Emily just so happy to say that Heather's lying. I said, girl, you really need some help. And let me just say, for anybody who thinks that I'm just so hard on Emily and Gina, I'm really actually quite light on them. Because if y'all actually saw the clips that do not get included into my recaps because I feel like they go too far and they are a bit too mean, then you would say, oh, damn, like, she actually does spare them in her recaps. Now, I would like to pose a question. Let's just say that Heather did call paparazzi on herself. Why does anybody care? Celebrities do that all the time, from the A-list to the F-list. So please, somebody enlighten me in the comments. Why are they so pressed about whether or not Heather calls paparazzi on herself? Who cares? Does that affect your bills? Is that affecting your check that Heather calls paparazzi? She's not harming anybody. That's not taking away from anybody. It just seems like you're jealous that she's getting more publicity and more promo, and you're not. Let's call it what it is. It seems like y'all find reasons to be upset with Heather due to envy and jealousy. Because you can't tell me while y'all are sitting up here calling her a liar, calling her everything but a child of God, because she may or may not call the paparazzi on herself and Terry when they're out and about. So what if she does? So now Jenn jumps in, and low-key, I forgot that Jenn was there because Jenn was so quiet. But Jenn jumps in and she's like, Gina, are you saying anything to Heather? So now Gina reveals that Heather told her this, and she told Heather, don't ever bring this up ever again. Keep your mouth shut. Then she goes on to say that she didn't even tell Emily, and we all know that Emily and Gina are best friends. And Emily's low-key upset hearing this, and she's like, that's because Gina is so protective of Heather. Now I said, hold on. I don't believe a word coming out of Gina's mouth. I think that Gina is a liar who will say anything to make Heather look bad in the moment because she wants to fit in with Tamara, Emily, and the rest of the group. Because while Heather has been a good friend to Gina, at the end of the day, Gina values Tamara's opinion more than she values Heather's. Because like I said, Emily and Gina both view Tamara as the head cheerleader and they want to be in with her. I said, Gina, even if you are telling the truth about how Heather admitted this to you in private and you told her don't say anything, you're a loser. Because for you to sit up there and turn on your friend and tell what she said in confidence to everybody else, that's some real lame behavior. You are not to be trusted. But let's be clear, I'm not believing this whole story that Heather told Gina in confidence that she actually did do it and Gina told her don't say anything. I don't believe it. I don't. And Heather, if this is true and you did confide in Gina, you're a fool. And Heather, I say that with love, but I've told you, the viewers have told you as a whole that Gina is not to be trusted. So now you have Katie saying, well, honestly, I just think that this whole thing is just petty and stupid. And now Tamara jumps in and says, one thing about Heather, Heather does not like being called a liar. So bye, Katie, nice knowing you, because going up against Heather, that's going to be a mess. And I said, shut up. Don't say bye, Katie, it was nice knowing you. You're obviously setting her up to fail. If you were so concerned about Katie going up against Heather, you would advise Katie to keep her mouth shut in the first place. But you're egging her on, saying, oh yeah, well, you should confront her about all this. And now it's, oh, well, bye, Katie, nice knowing you, because Heather's not the one. Just say that y'all like mess and you're getting enjoyment knowing that Heather is going to rip Katie a new asshole. So now Katie airs out another grievance that she has with Miss Heather Dubrow, and she says, oh, by the way, when she tagged me in her birthday picture a few months ago, what was that about? And when I confronted her about that the other day, she denied it. So here goes Tamara saying, oh my gosh, yeah, I saw that. Like, what was that about? So now we see a flashback from a few days ago where Katie, Gina, Shannon, and Heather went out to get their nails done. And we see them all having a good time. They're laughing and joking around. And Katie brings up the whole incident with Heather. So Heather says, oh my gosh, I don't actually do my social media. I'm a social media person. And that day I was wearing a Givenchy dress. So when I typed in G-I, I think your last name popped up, which is Janella. So that's what happened. But it was a clear mistake. And now you have Katie talking about, oh, I don't believe that. She did that on purpose. Like, why lie about that? I said, Katie, you're really reaching. Do you honestly believe that Heather Dubrow purposely tagged you in her Instagram picture? What would be the point of that? I don't understand why you want to have an issue with Heather. It's giving obsessed. It almost feels like you set this up like, okay, I'm going to come on this show and I'm going to automatically go after Heather, because it's not adding up as to why you keep trying to find something to be upset with Heather about. So now we see Emily, Tamara, and Jenn go up on the bar to dance. They're living out their Coyote Ugly fantasy. And I'm not going to hold you, but I thought that Emily looked so stupid up there. I thought that she looked awkward. There was no sex appeal, just very goofy. And I'm not trying to be shady, but I just feel like Emily's whole aura is of goofiness and her being messy and shady, so her trying to be sexy, it doesn't translate. She just tries way too hard. I know I can't be the only one who can see it, but when she was up on the bar, you could tell that she was just trying so hard to appear sexy and carefree and fun, and it just wasn't giving that. But while the three of them are up on the bar, we can hear Gina and Katie, and they're talking about what just happened. Gina's telling Katie, why did you say anything? I told you not to tell them. And Katie's like, I know. And I said, well, girl, it's too late now. So now they're done dancing on the bar. And now we see Gina whispering into Emily's ear. And she's like, I feel so bad because now everybody knows about this whole Heather situation. And now you have Emily saying, honestly, Katie needs to grow up, eat her Wheaties, because Heather is going to destroy her. And I said, wow, Emily, if I didn't know any better, it seems like you set this whole thing up to watch Katie be destroyed. Because the glee in her voice when she said that, you can tell that she can't wait for this drama to pop off between Katie and Heather. And Katie, that's why I don't really have any sympathy for you, because you allowed yourself to be used, running your mouth in front of Gina and Emily, knowing that they're about to set you up to fail. So now we jump over to Shannon. She's at home and Vicki comes over. Now, Vicki, two things. You came into Shannon's house empty-handed, and I said, no, ma'am. I know that you and Shannon are friends, but I was taught that you don't go to anybody's house empty-handed. I don't care how many times you've been to somebody's house, you always show up with something. And then on top of that, you have a staph infection. Aren't staph infections contagious? For all of my subscribers who work in healthcare, nurses, doctors, let me know. I thought that they were contagious. You shouldn't be around anybody if you have a staph infection. So the fact that she was there, I just said, really? And then when she asked if Shannon wanted to see the staph infection, she was like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of pus coming out. I said, girl, nobody wants to see that. Why are you even in her house? And when she was bragging about how she checked herself out of the hospital despite her doctor telling her to stay, I was like, really? That's not a badge of honor. And I've always had a very love-hate relationship with Vicki. Yes, she's funny. She can give you iconic moments. But I always thought that she could be very mean at times, very hypocritical. And I always hated how she wore being a workhorse and working herself to death as this badge of honor, and then she looked down her nose on women who wanted a softer life. I always felt that there was some jealousy between her and a lot of the women on the show who had husbands who provided enough money where they had the choice not to work. And I always hated how she views herself as superior because she just works herself to the bone. But then on the other hand, she's jealous of women who don't want that life. And one thing about me, I have no desire to work myself to the bone. I will choose the soft life every single time. I've always been like that since I was a child. So when I saw Vicki in earlier seasons when the show first started, I was really like, wow, she's jealous of the other women who don't have to do all that much. So now they start talking about their show, and remember, things have changed since Tamara has now quit. So Vicki says that Tamara didn't even have the balls to call her up and tell her that she wouldn't be doing it anymore, and she says that Tamara has a black heart and good riddance. Now, I will say, when it comes to Vicki, Shannon, and Tamara falling out, I always roll my eyes because the way they're always falling out to make up later again and say, oh, we're sisters and I love you so much. They do this every single year. So I take this with a grain of salt because I feel like 2 years from now, or maybe 6 months from now, we're going to hear about how they reunited, they've made up, and they're all sisters again, and it's the Tres Amigas. So now they FaceTime their tour manager, and they want to know if there's any fallout with Tamara not returning. And he says, yeah, there is some fallout, financial fallout, some mental, emotional fallout. But other than that, the show can still go on. And the way Tamara just dipped out on them in business like this, that's really shameful. But then again, is anybody surprised? Tamara has very low character, so I'm not surprised that she quit in the manner that she did because that's who Tamara is. So now Shannon drops some bad news and she says, Vicki, I have to tell you something. I received a letter the other day from John's lawyer saying that I owe him $75,000. So Vicki's like, oh, please, you were out here paying for everything when you guys were together. You paid for all his flight upgrades, all his clothes, all his boat paraphernalia. You don't owe him anything. Does he even have a job? So Shannon's like, well, I don't know if he has a job now. And Vicki points out that he wasn't working when they were together. And I said, Shannon, Miss Mamas, let me just talk to you for a minute. Because what the F was going through your mind paying for a grown-ass man? I was so disgusted hearing that you were buying his flight upgrades and his clothes and all of the things for his boat, excuse me? And Heather revealed last season that you were paying for all the dates. And Shannon, I'm really shocked because when you were married to David, you did say that he paid for every bill. You never saw a bill. And the whole time you guys were married, you grew up well. You grew up rich. You had a rich father. So I'm really surprised that you would succumb to desperation paying for a man. I know that this isn't a hypergamy channel, but I'm serious, y'all. Stop paying for men. If a man has his hand out asking you for money, you need to run. Shannon, don't let this happen again. Because the way I was so appalled listening to all that you've done for him, this is a mess. And Vicki, you too, because you were out there spending money on Brooks. Brooks was broke. Stop being desperate for dick, okay? Stop it. Because that desperation leads to desperate behaviors like paying for a man. So Vicki goes on to say that he's a bad guy and she knew it the whole time, but it wasn't her place to say anything because the same thing happened when she was with Brooks. She didn't want to hear it, and we saw how that turned out. He was a big fraud. lied about having cancer. Now, for all my new OC watchers, when you get to, what was it, season 11, season 12, that's when that whole thing comes out about Brooke's faking cancer. Now, y'all know I love Shannon down, so I was so upset when she started crying. She was like, he's trying to hurt me. He knows how much I spend on my kids. He knows I'm a single mom. Like, he only wants to hurt me because why else would you do this? Because we both know that you're going to spend more than 75 grand on lawyers. And again, John is a loser. He's a leech. He's a clout chaser who just wants attention, and he definitely does want to hurt Shannon. And John, you should feel ashamed of yourself to ask her for anything. Even if you did spend 75 grand on her, you guys were in a relationship, and whatever you spent, consider that a gift. And you can't ask for a gift back. So how dare you say that you want your money back? That's not how it works. So now we jump to Jenn and Ryan. They're packing up for a weekend trip to Vegas. So Jenn's like, oh, by the way, hun, we shouldn't post any pictures on Instagram because of my money situation. I don't want anybody judging me. And Ryan's like, yeah, whatever. They're going to judge you anyway. Who cares? So Jenn goes on to say that Ryan doesn't let her pay for anything. And I said, now, hold on. I'm confused. I've been asking this since episode 1. If Ryan has the money to take her on all these trips and to buy a new car and have Jenn use his old car, why couldn't he just write her a check for the back rent and pay off the rest of her car note? I almost get the impression that he wants her dependent on him and he doesn't want her to have her own. Because again, I'm just confused at the thought process. Why wouldn't he just cut her the checks for the rent and the car note? Am I the only one thinking this? Am I crazy? Let me know. But something in the milk ain't clean. And we're going to find out more about Ryan's finances because we see that he's involved in this alleged Ponzi scheme for $16 million that involves this high-earning baseball player. And we know that baseball money, that's some money. Those contracts are insane. But he's allegedly involved in that because the news broke a few months ago. So Jenn says that Emily took another jab at her at girls' night last night. And now we see the flashback where they were at a food truck after the dive bar and Jenn was cold, so she was wearing Emily's coat. And Emily says, oh, wow, Jenn, you look like you have money. And Jenn says, well, I don't. And Emily says, yeah, I know. Now I said, hold on. Jenn, you're way too nice. It's clear that you're not used to being around catty women because I would have read Emily for filth. First of all, let me just stop right here. Emily, what would you have if you did not marry Shane? Because let's not forget, you and Shane live off of Shane's parents' money. There are very few people in life who have never had financial hiccups. Life happens to everybody. And for you to sit up there and look down your nose and remind Jenn of how broke she is every chance you get, that's sick. And it's low-key bully behavior. Now, what if somebody read you down about your insecurities? You would be crying. I just said, how dare you? That was so nasty and so evil for you to say that to her. And the root of all this hate is jealousy. Because let's not act like Emily is not insecure about her looks. And she's referenced it several times throughout the seasons and in these last 4 episodes. She said in the last episode, when she did her sexy boudoir photo shoot for Shane, about how living in the OC can be hard, especially if you're not the aesthetic. I feel like the way Jenn looks triggers Emily. Because you cannot tell me that Emily has a real legit reason to keep going after Jenn every chance she gets. She doesn't stop. Whether Jenn is in front of her or not, she finds a way to make a dig at her, and it's weird. And again, life be lifing, and you don't know what the next day is going to bring. Everybody is one disaster away from losing everything. It doesn't matter how much money you have or think you have. And you could be up one day and down the next day. So not too much, sis, because if Shane's parents decide to cut y'all both off, you'll be asked out. And I can assure you that your Bravo check will not be able to cover all your expenses. It's a cute check. They say that you make, what, $250,000, $300,000, and that's nice and all. But the way you guys live, it's a lot more than that. So I wouldn't do too much trying to call Jenn broke. And Jenn can be up tomorrow. The fact that she's on this show and the fans like her so much, she can easily be right back up financially. And won't that be funny if Jenn remains on the show and you get fired? It won't be so funny then. And one more thing. This is how I know that a lot of these women are not real friends outside of the show. Because if this is really your friend and you see a friend struggling financially, wouldn't you think to offer them some money? Because that's just the way that I was raised. Like if you see somebody, a loved one, a sibling, a close friend, if they're struggling and you have it to give, I was taught to just give it. Because my dad always taught that you're blessed to be a blessing. And the blessing is not just for you. So if you are blessed and you do have additional money and somebody that you love is going through it, you don't need for them to wait to ask you. You can just offer and say, hey, do you need, because I can give it to you, take it, don't worry about paying me back, here. I just feel like if I were on one of these shows and I were good friends with somebody on the cast and they were going through it financially, I couldn't sit there and watch them suffer like that. Off camera, I would be like, hey girl, do you need something? Take it, don't mention it, don't bring it up on the show. It's nobody's business because you don't do good deeds to be seen. Personally, there's no way that I could watch a friend or a loved one struggle to pay bills, to put food on the table, and just sit there and gossip and key about it and now offer them some money. And I am surprised at Heather because Heather, you do pride yourself on being a generous friend. So I am quite shocked that you haven't said, hey girl, me and Terry can give you something. I hope this helps. But low-key sis, you've also been kind of shading her because when you made that joke at your luncheon, when you had that question booth and you said, oh, well, if it was a money booth, it wouldn't have enough money for the rent that she needs. And I was like, really, Heather? Really? And again, sis, I love you, but I have to be honest. I am a bit surprised that you haven't thought to just, slide her a few dollars. Because the way I'm set up, I couldn't sit there and watch a friend or somebody that I claim to be a friend and they have 5 kids and they're crying about how they're going to eat and pay a bill. I couldn't watch them suffer like that, especially if I'm sitting on a bunch of money. But that's just me. Everybody's not the same. But I just really hate the way they're all dogging her out like this instead of lending a helping hand. And like I said, life happens to everybody. So you better hope that you're not in Jenn's situation the following year. And that's why I get on Gina so bad, because it's such an insult, the fact that Gina has been in this boat for several years and now she wants to look down her nose when she knows exactly what Jenn is going through. Y'all, don't get me started. I did not mean to go off on a tangent like that, but I just don't like the way they are treating Jenn. I think that Jenn is a sweet soul, and say whatever you want about her, but Miss Mamas does not deserve that. So Jenn continues on and says that she's constantly being judged by this group. And then she says, if we were married, nobody would be saying anything. And Ryan agrees. And I said, Jenn, you have to remember that you're on a show with some very hateful and insecure women who feel like the only way to get self-esteem is to tear somebody else down. So Ryan actually gives some good advice. He says, ignore them. Obviously, these are Emily's issues. She's projecting. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what this is. It's all projection. Emily, in my opinion, is a very miserable woman who needs deep therapy to sort through her issues. Now, Jenn, I sympathize and I empathize with you, but Miss Girl, we need to work on your business acumen and your common sense because it's lacking. I was blown away when you revealed this whole verbal agreement regarding your yoga studio. I said, girl, I thought everybody knew that when it comes to contracts, you get it in writing. You don't trust any verbal agreement. We find out that when Jenn opened up her yoga studio, it was during COVID. Her and the previous landlord had worked out a modified rent. So when the new landlord came in, they ended up suing Jenn for unpaid rent during COVID. So Ryan points out that they're going by the previous written contract that was set in place, not a verbal agreement. I understand that your heart is in the right place, but Miss Mamas, you have to learn to get stuff in writing. You cannot go by, well, they told me, we agreed on this. That does not work. Get it in writing. I don't care if you have to write it down on a napkin. If it's not written, chances are you're going to be screwed. But we do find out that Jenn has been making payments towards the back rent. I said, oh my gosh, Jenn, I'm really rooting for you. I'm praying that your situation turns around because you're dealing with a lot. Now we jump to a short scene with Katie and her husband out on a date night, and the restaurant that they were at looks amazing. They were at Javier's. I know that the ladies love that restaurant. I know that that's a favorite restaurant of Heather's. We've seen them at Javier's throughout the years. And the next time I'm in Orange County, I will be there. But anyhow, we learn more about how Katie and her husband met. Remember how they're both in golf. And Katie says that when she first laid eyes on him, she thought he was hot. So she says it was love at first sight on her end. Then she says that he low-key stood her up on a date because he had said, oh yeah, let's go out, me and a bunch of people. And she got dressed even though she was tired. She said that she had worked 14 hours that day, but she still got dressed and got made up, and he didn't even show up. His excuse was he was tired and he had to wake up for work at 3 a.m. So now she brings up the golf event that she's hosting for the ladies. She's excited for it. And then she says that she was trying to come up with names for the event. And we see a flashback where when her, Gina, and Heather and Shannon were out getting their nails done, and she's like, well, what if we call it drinking and driving? So they're all laughing. Heather's like, well, I don't think we should name it that because, you know, the stuff that happened with Shannon. So since Katie's talking about the group, she brings up how she likes Jenn a lot because they bonded over adoption. Because we remember last season, Jenn revealed that she used to be a foster mother and she adopted her son, who happens to be Mexican. Now that's her 5th child, and we see a clip where Jenn and Katie were talking about adoption, and Jenn says that sometimes her son will ask, how come I'm not your color? And Katie says that she went through that too because we know that Katie was adopted into a white family. And Katie says that Jenn is a great mom. She's doing a great job because she actually is having hard conversations where her parents didn't talk to her about her culture or her race at all. So she says that because she didn't get that from her parents, she wants to make sure that her kids tap into their roots because it is important. And Katie, the viewers appreciate personal story. If you give us more of this and less going after Heather, you might do well. But when you come in already guns blazing, trying to attack an OG, it never works. So be yourself, sis. Stop with all this trying to make problems with Heather and give us more of your personal backstory and let the drama happen organically. So now we jump on over to Gina. She's at home. So we see Katie come over and Gina's telling her all about how Travis moved out. So she feels lonely and it does feel a bit weird with him not being there. Now I'm going to say this, and Gina, hear me clearly. When I tell you that we do not care about this whole sob story and this storyline about you and Travis, we really don't care. None of us were ever invested in you and Travis. So again, sis, spare us and leave us alone about it. And like I said, I always saw Travis and Gina's relationship as 2 rebounds getting together to split bills. I never saw any romantic connection. I still believe that Gina is in love with her ex-husband, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I don't care about Travis and Gina, so I want her to stop talking about it. But Gina goes on to say that it feels like they broke up and it doesn't feel great. First of all, nobody told you to move a grown man into your home in the first place. So I don't understand why you feel so much sadness. He should have never been in there. So they go up to Gina's room to talk. And remember, Katie's hosting her golf event in a few days, and she has outfits for everybody. So she's giving Gina some dresses to wear. And the first dress, Gina was making faces like, oh, I don't like that. Like, oh no. And I said, Gina, whatever Katie has for you to wear is still an improvement on your clothes, because Gina cannot dress worth a damn. So the audacity for her to be looking up and down like, oh, I don't want to wear that. Like, no, that's not my style. Your style sucks, sis. So be happy with whatever Katie has for you. And your new confessional look was revealed on Twitter. And girl, whoever sent you out there with that crooked wig on your head and that horrible bodycon dress, they need to be fired. So we do see Gina try out one of the outfits. And while she's trying it on, she says, Katie, can I talk to you about something? I want to talk about the other night when the paparazzi stuff got brought up. So Katie says, well, honestly, I thought that it was silly. And Gina says, well, if you thought it was so silly, then why did you bring it up? And I said, now, Gina, let's not do that, because when we play the tapes back, Emily was the one who brought this whole thing up. So Gina's trying to explain the severity of this situation, and she says, last year, Tamara accused Heather of staging those pics, and I know Heather, she's going to be pissed about this whole conversation. And as she should, because why are y'all bringing up old stuff from a year and a half ago? And Katie, like I said earlier on in this recap, you are grasping at straws to have an issue with Heather. This is getting ridiculous. So she brings up yet another grievance that she has, and she says, well, I'm good friends with Cynthia Bailey, and we know Cynthia, the legend from Real Housewives of Atlanta, and we find out that since Heather has moved to LA, she's new to the social circle that she's in, and Heather low-key feels territorial about her friendship with Cynthia. So according to Katie, her and Cynthia met up for lunch the other day, and Cynthia told her that they were at a mutual friend's birthday party, and when she got there, Heather made a beeline for Cynthia, and apparently Heather was asking Cynthia all about Katie. Now, do I believe this? No. I think that Katie, once again, wants to have an issue. I don't think that Heather Dubrow is thinking about Katie Janela. I think it's the other way around. I think that for some reason, Katie just has it in her head to go after Heather. And I don't know why she's doing this. I'm just not understanding Katie's thought process. This all sounds stupid. And even Gina said, look, you guys are both my friends. I want you to talk to her, because if you don't talk to her about this, then I will. So now we see a parallel scene with Emily and Tamara hanging out at Tamara's house. And I said, oh, Emily, I know you're happy. You finally got an invite to Tamara's house. Now you guys are best friends. Your lifelong dream, huh? So now they go out to Tamara's patio. And of course, they're talking about Heather Dubrow and this whole paparazzi scandal. And I'm like, once again, why are we talking about something that happened 2 years ago? This is just so silly. We're talking about stale tea. And even if she did call paparazzi on herself, who cares? So Emily's like, what bothered me were those staged pictures of Heather and Terry, and now you have Tamara get up and start imitating them. And I said, really? Why are y'all so pressed? So Tamara goes on to say that Heather loves getting her picture taken, and that when she goes to Craig's in LA, she hires a paparazzi to get them when they're coming out from the restaurant. And I just said, again, are you mad because you can't afford to hire paparazzi to take pictures of you when you and Eddie go out? And Emily, we know that you're jealous because outside of this show, nobody cares about you. I don't see you getting your picture taken anywhere else besides at Bravo events. And I'm going to just leave it at that. Now you have Emily saying that she feels some vindication and how she would like to see Fancy Pants get caught with her fancy pants down around her ankles. I said, girl, oh my gosh, please seek help. Now we get to the big day. It's the day of Katie's golf event. So we see everybody getting ready, and unfortunately, we flip to Gina and Emily getting ready at their homes, and they're on FaceTime with each other, asking about their outfits, and of course, the conversation somehow turns to Jenn. At this point, I want both of y'all to cut Jenn a check because she lives in y'all's heads rent free. So the first thing out of Gina's mouth, did you see that Jenn was in Vegas with Ryan? And Emily's like, I just can't. I have no words about that. And Gina says, instead of going to Vegas, she needs to be clocking into a job, making payments. And I said, you know what you need to be doing? You need to be staying out of Jenn's business and hiring a stylist for yourself because you always look awful. I have never seen somebody so worried about somebody else and what they're doing. Meanwhile, they look a fool. And also, Jenn is on a trip with her boyfriend who paid for the trip. Sorry that you can't say the same because when you and Travis went anywhere, you were the one shelling out your debit card because he's broke. Gina, you could never speak to me or read anybody about anything because Gina is a walking read. So I'm just really perplexed as to why she feels like she can speak about anybody's situation. So to add insult to injury, Gina goes on to ask, how much do you want to bet that Jenn's paid for glam for this golf event? And I said, okay, as she should. What don't y'all understand? She's on a reality show just like y'all. And being on TV requires that your face be beat. Because if you show up on camera with a bare face, you will be clowned. And y'all know that you would be clowning Jenn every chance she got if she did show up with a bare face and tattered clothes. So let's not play these games. And one more thing, the same way you all get a check from this show, so does Jenn. So for you to say she needs to clock in and get a job, well, she has clocked in because this is her job right now. And she's hoping to secure the bag with each passing season. So let's cut all that noise about, oh, she's not working, where's her job? She does have a job. Unfortunately, the money hasn't hit right for her to pay off her bills, but she is working. She has her yoga studio and she's on the show trying to collect a check and secure the bag the same way you are. Again, Jenn triggers the both of y'all because she still runs laps around y'all despite her having financial insecurity right now. And on top of that, she still looks like she has more than y'all, even though you guys claim to have all this money. That's the real gag. You guys are just upset that she's still outshining you guys with nothing in her pocket, and you can't say the same. So now we cut to Katie and her husband arriving at the golf course, and they're setting up for the event. And now we see Tamara, Heather, and Gina arrive. Now, one thing about Miss Heather, Heather has class, and she has excellent manners because she never arrives to anybody's home or event empty-handed. She brings Katie a gift, a bottle of Dom Perignon, and I said, I know that's right. So Katie lets the ladies know that whoever wins today's game wins a pair of Prada sunglasses. So now we see Jenn and Emily arrive. Emily says that she's not that excited to play golf, but she is excited for the golf cart with all the drinks. And I said, I've noticed that Emily tries to make drinking her personality, and it's just not landing. Because even when Emily does drink a lot, she's still not fun or entertaining, so girl, let's come up with something else. You're just not that girl, whether sober or inebriated, you just don't have it. Emily wears me thin. Emily really wears me out, for real. I just, her whole personality, her demeanor, I just don't see it for her. I really don't, y'all. And it's hard for me to really hold back because the way I could just read her for an hour straight. Now, Miss Shannon Bedore arrives, and honey, the minute that she pulled up, Tamara looked shook. And I said, now, Tamara, for somebody who claims that she can't stand Shannon and you act like you're just so tough, why do you always seem afraid and nervous every time Shannon is around? But that's how you know that Shannon is that girl, because the girls who claim to not like her are still shook when she's around them. Because Tamara, if you were really that girl, you would pay Shannon dust. And one of y'all made a great point in one of my recaps. You said that the reason why Tamara can't stand Shannon is the fact that the viewers love Shannon so much, and Tamara feels like she should get all that love because she's been on the show longer, and she's jealous of the fact that Shannon has a lot of the fans' approval. And I can see that because, again, Tamara is very nice, nasty, very snake-like, and she also gets very jealous, very intimidated by other women who she perceives as a threat. And I would not be surprised if Tamara is shocked and upset that Shannon has become a fan favorite. So while everybody's making small talk and getting ready to play, we see Heather and Gina off to the side, and Gina is telling Heather all about the latest mess with her and Travis. She says that last night on the phone, Travis pretty much broke up with her. So Gina goes on to say that she was like, no, don't break up with me right now. If you want to break up with me 3 months from now, that's fine, but not right now. Just let it settle. So I said, wait, you said what? You pretty much begged for him to stay when he wants out? Are you that desperate, Gina? Don't let a man tell you he doesn't want you more than once. The minute a man wants out, you need to say, thank you for your time, and be out the door. Begging a man to stay is pathetic and is loser behavior. I'm so sorry to tell you. If somebody wants to go, let them go. This is why I say that Gina is a walking reed, and I don't understand why she thinks that she can bully somebody. You're throwing subs at Jenn being broke every chance you get, but meanwhile, back at the ranch, you're begging a man to stay when he clearly wants to leave. But you think that you can read somebody. Got it. So now Katie's husband introduces himself to all the ladies, and now we see the golf pro introduce himself, and the golf pro is cute. So now they start playing golf, and remember, the winner has to get the lowest score. So we see that there's a tie between Emily and Gina, and Emily ends up winning. I was annoyed that Emily won. I said, oh my gosh, the most obnoxious person here has to win the game. And even Jenn was irritated. She said, really? The person who has been on my ass for the last several weeks about my finances, she has to win? And I said, Jenn, it's okay. Because when you think about it, girl, you're still winning. Emily is pressed to talk about you every chance she gets. So who's the real winner? I would say it's you. Broke is temporary. Insecurity and jealousy, unfortunately, that's forever. And it seems like Emily has such deep-seated issues, it's going to stick with her until she's an old lady. So, girl, you're winning at life. Don't be upset about Emily. She won the glasses, but soon enough, you'll be able to buy 10 Prada sunglasses when your money picks back up. So now it's time for them to eat, and Katie does have a nice spread for them. She even has a hot dog station. She says that because she knows how much Heather loves hot dogs, she went ahead and had a hot dog station. And Katie, it low-key gives fan behavior, because for somebody who has all these issues with Heather, you sure do remember a whole lot about what she likes and what she doesn't like. So before Heather gets a hot dog, she's like, hold up, let me go back and get my drink. And mind you, her drink is at the table where Tamara and Emily are both talking about her and the whole paparazzi situation. So Heather walks over to get her drink, and she immediately senses that something isn't right. So she's like, okay, what were you guys talking about? What's going on? Neither one of them answer her, and she's like, so nobody's going to speak? Like, what's tea? So finally, Emily and Tamara reveal that the other night at girls' night, Katie revealed that Heather was lying about not calling the paparazzi on her and Terry. So now Emily's like, she also claims that she has proof, and Heather says, okay, well, tell her to bring the proof then. So everybody else is over by the food, and they're watching Heather, Tamara, and Emily talk, and they already have a feeling that they're talking about Katie and this whole paparazzi scandal. Katie's nervous, and Gina and Shannon are like, look, just talk to Heather about this, get it over with. And then at one point, Gina says, rest in peace, Katie, pretty much saying that it's not going to be good between you and Heather. Now I said, Katie, the time to be nervous was when you opened your mouth in the first place at girls' night. You had a lot to say about Heather, so stand in what you said, be a woman about it, and deal with it. So now Katie walks over to where Heather, Tamara, and Emily are, and she says, hey guys, can I just talk to Heather alone? And they're like, okay, fine. So they walk off, and now it's Heather versus Katie. Heather is already irritated, and I said, Katie, you are running your mouth for several episodes now about your issues with Heather, so don't be afraid now. Stand 10 toes down, sis. So Katie starts it off by saying that she just wants to talk it out because there's this weird looming energy between the both of them. And Heather interjects. She says, there's nothing weird going on between us. Like, I don't have an issue with you, but apparently you have an issue with me because you're running your mouth to all of my friends. I said, Heather, please clock it. Please clock it, because she's the one with the issue. It's a one-sided beef. So now Katie brings up Heather allegedly snubbing her when they were all at Sutton's Christmas party. So Heather's like, girl, I have no recollection of what you're talking about. Like, I don't know what's going on. So now Katie says, well, I hear that you're digging up information on me. You're calling up all my friends in LA to get dirt on me. And Heather is like, wait, are you serious right now? Heather is so confused. She's like, Katie is not even a blip on the radar. I don't think about sis. I don't know where she's getting this from. I've been nothing but nice to her. Now, Katie, let me just read you right now quickly. Why would you wait to address Heather about all of this now? It gives very fake. Because we see that you guys had filmed a scene at the nail salon a few days ago. You, Gina, Shannon, and Heather. If you had such an issue with Heather, why didn't you address this with her at the nail salon? When they kept playing those clips of you guys together, you guys were having a good time. You were laughing. It seemed like a good time. So I'm thinking it just feels very forced and very fake for you to now bring this up and try to embarrass her and lie on her. Like, where was all this energy a few days ago when you guys were at the nail salon together? So Katie continues on this bizarre rant about how she came into this group knowing that Heather lied. So Katie says that she has screenshots, and now Heather claps back and says, I have never called the paparazzi on myself. I swear on all my kids' lives. So now we see the screenshot, and we see a text conversation between Katie and this alleged friend who's the head of paparazzi. And Katie's asking him, do you know if Heather Dubrow called paparazzi on herself at Disneyland? And the person says yes. Katie lost all credibility when I saw that whack-ass receipt on the screen. I said, no, ma'am. That was a complete flop. And the fact that you're sitting there saying, oh, I have receipts, I have proof. Like, girl, you don't have anything. You could have kept that. So they're going back and forth. Everybody else is watching them. Gina says that this is what she didn't want them to start fighting. And I said, Gina, shut up. Because you and Emily were stirring the pot at the girls' night, running your mouth. So it is what it is. You wanted this and you got it. The only reason why you're nervous is because you know that Heather is about to go off on you too. Because you were also dead ass wrong, putting your 2 cents in and throwing her under the bus saying, oh yeah, well, she told me this in private that she did do it and I told her don't say anything. You know that it's about to blow up in your face. So Heather's like, I don't have a worry in my body because I know I didn't do this. And Katie keeps calling her a liar. So Heather's like, now, Miss Girl, I let you say it a few times, but I'm going to need you to stop calling me a liar right now. So at this point, since this group is so nosy and they can't just let people fight and argue by themselves, they all walk over and Tamara says, just so you know, Heather, Katie never came for your character. Now, Tamara, let me just stop right here. When you call somebody a liar, you're also attacking their character, you idiot. So again, shut up. So Heather makes some great points in her confessional. She says that it's pretty much all projection on Katie's end. She's accusing me of things that she's doing. And I believe it because with Katie, there's definitely a thirst around her. And it's just giving me that she's always wanted to be on this show, and she thinks that the best way to solidify her spot is by going after Heather. So now Katie says, Heather, I just want to understand any bad or ill will that you're harboring against me. And Heather makes it clear that she has no issue with Katie and that she was trying to get to know Katie, but right now she doesn't know if she wants to do that. So Katie's like, well, okay. And I was screaming when Heather said, and oh, by the way, enjoy the bottle of Dom that I got you. I said, exactly. Because every time you take a sip, Katie, you have to be reminded that Heather is the one who bought you that bottle. And I also thought it was weird when Katie was like, oh, well, I want to give everybody their gift bags, but I don't know if Heather's going to want one now. And I said, who would? Who would want to accept any of your gifts after you just accused them of lying? I wouldn't want it. If I were Heather, I would refuse it. Like, no thanks, I'm good. Katie, I'm sorry, but I have to put you in my Gina files because you're giving weirdo. I don't know why you have such a hard-on to accuse Heather of being a liar. You just got on this show, sis. You might not be here next season, so tread lightly. But y'all, that was the episode. That was my recap. As you guys can see, I had a lot to say, but like I've told y'all several times, OC is one of my favorite franchises. I mean, we could be here all day, but I just love them. The drama has always been chef's kiss. There's just so much to talk about. So I always have a good time running my mouth about the Orange County ladies. But in all seriousness, though, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.